Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Danielle Fisher, and I'm the event manager here at ECO Canada. And today's session is called Dispelling Myths and Misconceptions about Hiring Persons with Disabilities. Before we start, I would like to take a moment to recognize the traditional Indigenous lands where ECO Canada's office is based in Calgary. At ECO Canada, we're committed to working towards respectful acknowledgement, collaboration, and reconciliation with Indigenous peoples across Canada. This starts with acknowledging our honor and privilege to live and work within the Treaty 7 territory. Today, we're presenting from the city of Calgary, home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Districts 5 and 6. We would also like to take this time to acknowledge the traditional territories and oral practices of the Niitsitapi, home of the Blackfoot Confederacy, which includes the Siksika, the Piikani, and the Kainai First Nations, and the Tsuut'ina and Goodstoney, which include Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. Before we start, there are a few housekeeping guidelines for today's session to ensure that everyone can enjoy and participate in our session effectively. All participants are muted, so please check your audio settings to ensure that you can hear us properly. If you're experiencing any technical issues, please use the question box and select ECO Canada, the organizer, and I will do all that I can to resolve the issue. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be made available on demand to you within the next 24 hours. Everyone who registered for the webinar will receive an email with a link to the video. Any questions that you have about the presentation or today's topic can be submitted through the chat box or question box. We'll have dedicated time during the presentation to answer any questions from the audience. Finally, we really want to know what you think about our webinars and how we can keep improving. You'll be sent a short survey after the webinar ends. Please let us know what you think or if you have any comments or suggestions about the webinar. ECO Canada's vision is to build the world's leading environmental workforce. ECO Canada seeks to help environmental workers succeed at each step of their career journey. To do this, ECO Canada has developed programs tailored to individuals at different stages of their career. For those looking to enter the environmental workforce, ECO Canada provides training through the BEAR program and accreditation for environmental programs at post-secondary institutions. ECO Canada also provides opportunities for new workers to break into the environmental sector through wage funding for co-op students and recent post-secondary graduates. For those already employed as environmental workers, ECO Canada provides the environmental professional and environmental professional in training certifications and EPT students. Lastly, ECO Canada provides opportunities for those with vast experience as environmental workers to provide guidance and direction to ECO Canada's products and programs through advisory committees and emeritus memberships. Now I'd like to introduce you to our speakers. First up, we have Maddie Aldridge. Maddie is a research professional at ECO Canada, focusing on environmental labor market trends. Passionate about sustainability, Maddie uses data-driven insight to develop reports that help policymakers, industry leaders, and educators navigate the evolving landscape of the environmental sector. With a strong background in both qualitative and quantitative analysis, Maddie plays a key role in shaping the future of Canada's green economy. Next, we have Richard Cochrane. Richard is National Hub Coordinator at Mentorability Canada and is dedicated to fostering inclusivity and collaboration across the national landscape. Working closely with hub organizations and coordinators in every province and territory, Richard actively facilitates the exchange of skills, knowledge, and resources among their leadership teams, ensuring a unified approach to achieving Mentorability Canada's goals. Next, we have Glenn Walsh. Glenn is the Employer Engagement Coordinator for the Mentorability Program at CASE, and as such is dedicated to driving inclusivity and collaboration by engaging with employers across various sectors. Glenn works closely with organizations to facilitate meaningful connections and support the integration of individuals with disabilities into the workforce. Glenn's commitment to this mission empowers him to create opportunities for growth build strong partnerships, and advocate for the value of mentorship in fostering a more inclusive and supported work environment. And last but not least, we have Nikki Langdon. Nikki is the Prairie Regional Manager for the Squire Society and has worked with people with disabilities for over 30 years in career development. Nikki also has a diagnosed mental illness that she has lived with and battled for well over 50 years and has written and published a book on the same. She speaks to this stigmatized illness often at conferences in an effort to bring this illness out of the dark. For further information on her works and the good work at Squire, there's information in the handouts at the bottom of your screen. And over to our presenters.
Thanks, Danielle. So disability is unique because it is the only minority group that a person can join at any point in their life. Some people are born with a disability while others develop them later in life. The term disability can mean different things to different people, so it's not always clear who has a disability and who does not, since the definition can change, and specific people may consider themselves disabled or not with the same condition. In a workplace setting, a disability means a health condition that interferes with how an employee goes about their daily activities. And Stats Canada estimates that around 27% of Canadians over the age of 18 has a disability. So it's quite a large portion of the population that we're talking about. The environmental labor force is expected to grow by 9% over the next 10 years. So there's a significant number of potential workers that are here and willing to join in the labor market. It's estimated that around 645,000 Canadians who have a disability and are unemployed could work but are unable to find employment. There's a big challenge with matching people with jobs that meet their skill set, regardless of whether or not you have a disability, and extra accessibility concerns can add another layer of difficulty to that. Can we get the next slide, please, Danielle? Thank you. So we conducted research partnered with CASE that explored the opportunities for people with disabilities in the environmental sector. To do this, we surveyed 3 groups: support organizations, environmental employers, and job seekers with disabilities. A lot of the findings from that kind of showed that people with disabilities are very passionate, overwhelmingly so, about jobs in the environmental sector and the environment, and basically they'd be dedicated and loyal employees if they can be paired with the jobs that meet their skill sets. The environmental sector presents additional challenges since it has a higher education requirement typically than other jobs across the rest of the economy. So it can be difficult for individuals who only have a high school education to find a job that meets their needs. So employers might need to be able to adapt those positions, and we have support that can do that. Many Canadian companies report being unsure of how to reach the talent pool of disabled individuals, and employers may not know about the talents and skill set that disabled workers have and how to best support them in positions at their organizations. Support organizations can help bridge this gap for a lot of the employers and job seekers with disabilities who are overwhelmed and aren't sure where to start. Employers are in a good position to make a difference, and we're here today to help connect employers with resources and support that can facilitate more people with disabilities getting involved in the environmental sector. And I'll pass it over to my colleagues, Richard and Glenn.
We're just going to jump in with a little bit of a knowledge check. I'm going to drop a poll here if you guys could answer this poll. And the question is, what strategies has your organization used to support and retain employees with disabilities, and how do you measure their impact? And we have some questions in there, so we'll just wait for them to answer on this poll and we'll see how it goes. So it looks about 60% are saying they have not implemented any specific strategy as of yet. Let's give it a few more seconds. Just share these results here. So it looks like 58% said that they have not implemented any specific strategies. 5% have established an employee resource group, an ERG. And 16% have provided ongoing disability awareness training for all of their staff. And I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks so much. Thanks everyone for joining us today. My name is Richard Cockram. I'm the National Hub Coordinator for Mentorability Canada, and I work for the Canadian Association for Supported Employment, or CASE. And my colleague and I, Glenn, are going to be doing a presentation today on dispelling myths and misconceptions about hiring people with disabilities. That poll highlighted a fact that we in our industry have known for many years, is that there is a large percentage of employers out there who have not been exposed to hiring people experiencing disability. So today we're going to present a little bit of information on some myths that a lot of people are aware of, and some misconceptions. And we're going to try to debunk those myths for you. Next slide, please. Just a little bit about our organization, the Canadian Association for Supported Employment. We're a national association for supported employment for the employment sector. We're a member-based organization that works with community-based service providers, employers, and a variety of different stakeholders in Canada to facilitate opportunities for supported employment service providers to increase employment inclusion for Canadians experiencing disability. Next slide, please. A lot of organizations such as ours have mission statements. We have 9 guiding principles in which we follow, and this is what we teach and we preach to our service providers and member agencies. So I'm going to go over them really quick, just to give you an idea or a sense of our guiding principles. So choice and control. This is employment support that is guided by the job seeker experiencing a disability. Paid employment. All employees receive the same rate of pay and benefits. Partnership and mentoring. Inspiring employers and people experiencing disability to mutually benefit from workplace inclusion. Full inclusion. Job seekers are socially and economically included in their community. Job search. Successful employment is achieved through timely and appropriate support. Individualized, the specific needs of the employer and the skills of the job seekers are always considered. Natural supports, employment supports are as unobtrusive as possible. Long-term support means employment stability and career enhancement is valued. And continuous quality improvement, all stakeholders involved evaluate services and the service provider implements improvements. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of background on myself. Prior to my role with CASE, I had worked for a service provider agency or a support organization in Winnipeg, Manitoba for a number of years, 10 to be exact. And prior to that, I was working with newcomers coming into Canada for 3 years. So I have about 13 years total experience of being a job developer as well as a job coach. And my role was to work with both job seekers in helping them find work and become integrated into the job market, and then also working with employers to educate and bring them on board in terms of disability employment and inclusion. So these are typical myths that you see on the slide in front of you, which are, when I was doing the job, I was approaching employers and they would be asking questions and saying things that they weren't 100% aware of. And I did have opportunities to debunk those myths and say, no, that the opposite is true. So myth number one, hiring people with disabilities is too costly. And that's simply not true. It would cost about the same amount of money to hire a person with disability as it would be somebody who doesn't have one. Myth number two, employees who experience disability are less productive. Myth number three, extensive workplace modifications are needed to accommodate the person experiencing a disability in their workplace. And then myth number four, higher absenteeism rates. And if we can go to the next slide. So some of the myths that I'd mentioned in the first slide, we talked about hiring is too costly. Employees who experience disability are less productive. Um, let's talk a little bit about productivity. So we had done some joint research with the Ready, Willing, and Able project, which is a similarly funded program like Mentorability. And we had come up with some statistics here to debunk some of those myths that I'd mentioned in the earlier slide. So providing accommodations to people experiencing disabilities are a relatively easy thing to do. It could be very overwhelming at times for employers to jump into it and to provide these accommodations. But I think working with organizations such as CASE and others that exist across the country, you'll quickly realize that these accommodations are typically low cost and quite easy to do based on what the job seeker experiencing a disability is requesting. So some of these accommodations are tailoring your interview to accommodate that person with a disability, utilizing a flexible scheduling method, and that could be both in person and virtual as well. Providing a job coach. So a lot of these individuals who are experiencing disability, who are looking for jobs, are attached to a service provider within the province that they're looking for employment. And often that service provider is able to provide additional supports or a coach, if you will, to work with the employer to make sure that those accommodations are met. You can also look at different checklists for tasks that exist within your organization to make the job easier for the person experiencing a disability. And this list goes on and on and on. There are various different toolkits that we'll actually mention a little bit later in our presentation that CASE has to assist employers who have questions about accommodating in the workplace. Lower productivity is simply a myth. Actually, the stats are a little bit reversed, where productivity is actually increased with people with disabilities, and those they're seeing approximately 20% increase over regular staff. Often, going back to the accommodations and modifying a workplace or a workstation for providing accessible workplace to employees who have a disability. Those costs are very small. Often employers think that providing an accommodation or a modification to a workplace is expensive when I would say the average cost would be about $200. Yes, there will be situations where it's going to be more. And yes, there will be situations where it's going to be a lot less, such as no cost at all. And it's a proven fact as well that um, people with disabilities have a 95% or better average in terms of attendance and taking sick days. So they are, I don't know if reliable is the right word, but they certainly are a more reliable employee when you look at the numbers across the country with various different workplaces and employers. Next slide, please. Thank you. So many benefits of hiring. Oh, went one too far. Oh, that's the last slide. I think you're able to bring it back to slide number 6, please. Oh, those numbers are wrong on the top corner. I just noticed that. Yeah, we need to back up a little bit.
Sorry, Richard, which slide number are you looking for?
I'm looking at number 6,
Okay.
but I think the numbering is a little bit off on the top left-hand corner there. So yeah, this is the slide that I should be on. Apologies
Okay,
for that.
perfect. Apologies.
Um, Tons of benefits of hiring people experiencing disability. In addition to, employers becoming an inclusive employer and embracing diversity. The numbers are there. Research has been done. It enhances team effectiveness. Diversity certainly brings a different and varied perspectives and innovation to the workforce and teams. Diversity can increase innovation by 20% and help spot and reduce risks by up to 30%. Inclusive practices reflect a commitment to sustainability and equity overall as an organization. And certainly there are economic benefits, and we live in a world right now where recruiting individuals into your organizations is proving to be challenging. There are a large number of people experiencing disabilities in Canada currently who have the skill sets to do jobs, but are often overlooked by employers for a variety of different reasons. But that talent pool is quite large. As Maddie had mentioned earlier, 27% of Canadians experiencing or have a disability. And I believe the numbers are pretty high. And for people with intellectual disabilities, for example, 85 to 87% of those individuals are either unemployed or underemployed in this country currently. So again, there are people out there who have the skill sets to do the job, and CASE exists, and our service provider members exist to assist employers in tapping into that labor pool. Next slide, please. And I think this is the point where I'm going to pass it off to my colleague, Glenn, and he's going to take over from here.
Thank you so much, Richard. So again, my name is Glenn Walsh. I work with CASE with Richard, which is the Canadian Association for Supported Employment. And there I do employment engagement coordinator. So I work with various employers and having them come on to the mentorability program. So just to pick up where Richard left off, some of the things is there are a lot of resources out there that help support employers and employees. One of the things is the government, probably in every province, has various departments that can help you in terms of helping financially, incentives and training programs in terms of doing a lot of accommodations for people that may work at your organization that experience disability. So definitely explore that. One of the things too, you can explore with your various service providers, such as the CNIB, Canadian Institution for the Blind, or there's many other organizations as well that you can explore that with. So service advisors are very helpful. And the government as well in each province, your provincial government will be very able to assist you as well to figure out what resources and maybe funding that you may require there as well. So workplace accommodation, a lot of service providers do assist with providing accommodations if you don't necessarily know what that is or how to provide that. So many service providers, again, such as CNIB, Canadian Hard Hearing Association, all of those organizations out there, they definitely can help you provide some workplace accommodations if it's required. So don't feel that you are getting, you don't necessarily know what to do. There's professionals out there that you can access, and they'll be really helpful, and they're there to help you in terms of accommodating individuals that you may have at the workplace that experience disabilities. One of the things I like to talk about, and I'm working in the program, same as Richard, is the mentorability program that we both work together in. This is a program that's at CASE, and it provides mentor and mentee connections, and it's just a mentoring program. So you can sign up as an individual, or you can sign up as a corporation, and we can work with you in terms of how you can come on to our program and do a lot of mentoring for individuals that experience disability. So that would be great. Next slide. So some of the things in terms of fostering best practices, creating environment and inclusive culture at your organization. Some of the things that, just a physical space may be a thing in terms of having accessibility environment. Some of the things too maybe the way policies and practices are discussed or implemented at your organization may not necessarily be thinking about employees experiencing disabilities. So you might want to think about some of those in terms of adding those to your best practices in your organization. And it's kind of like a learning and always learning in terms of the leadership and learning about increasing your efforts to be more accessible, and in terms of providing support for people experiencing disability at your workplace. And CASE offers lots of training, so you can definitely go to CASE or contact your service providers as well, and they may help you in a particular area that you're looking to explore. Next slide. So Eco Canada, we are currently in a partnership with Eco Canada, and it's a great partnership. We've been a partner for quite some time now. So to the project, one is doing, I guess, in terms of developing videos, and the other one is developing or doing a lot of research in terms of helping people who are young, who have disabilities, get into the green sector a little bit more. So we're happy that we've joined on to the project with Eco Canada. So it's real stories of real people. The video series, which I think eventually will come out, and that'll be really exciting to view. So the next slide. Yeah, so this is the spotlight on the mentorability program. So we basically do a lot of matches, and this is just an overview. So we provide supports as well to help do the matches. So it's mentors and mentees being matched, and we have a hub in every single province. So wherever you're located in Canada, we can assist you in terms of matching mentors and mentees. The mentees will come from probably service providers, and the mentors will come usually from corporations, or you can sign up as individuals as well. But we're really looking to get more service providers or more organizations and companies on board to supply or to be part of the mentoring program. So there's the QR code there. You can always scan and go to our website if you like, and you can find out more. But some of the benefits are certainly tremendous. having, I guess, more corporate social responsibilities, diversity and inclusion goals, matching those goals in your corporation, access to skilled talents, and boosting employment engagement within your organization as well. So yeah, if you could scan that code, that'd be great, and that will teach you or make you get information on how to participate. Next slide. So taking the next step would be great to contact me. That'd be great, or Richard, in terms of participating in the mentorability program. Explore inclusion practices for your workplace. We can definitely do that at CASE as well. So there's lots of resources for employers there that you can learn in terms of education, how to make more inclusive environment and more inclusive workplace. So that'd be great if you can head over to our CASE website, or you can always contact me and Richard as well. Yeah, next slide. Thank you.
Hello. So thank you, Richard and Glenn. Fantastic information. And what I want to start with is how amazing CASE is, all of our partners are. I just want to throw a little blurb in about your annual conference. If you guys are looking for a place to go to learn some incredible things, I highly recommend the Canadian Associated of Supported Employment Conference. It's fantastic. Where are you next year? Winnipeg? No. I can't remember.
The next conference is in Moncton, New Brunswick next year.
Moncton, that's right.
Yep.
So anyway, highly, highly recommend. And what could be wrong with New Brunswick? There's lobster. So highly, highly recommend. And something that I'm going to share during my presentation is the importance of the partnerships that all of us have with each other. So I'm from Neil Squire. We've been around for 40 years, celebrated our 40th anniversary. I've been working with people with disabilities for over 30 years. So next slide for me. Thank you. I just would like to acknowledge that I am speaking to you from Treaty 4 territory, a treaty that was signed from the 35 First Nations across southern Saskatchewan, parts of Alberta and Manitoba, on the original lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, and the homeland of the Métis, and very, very honored to be speaking to you from these lands. Next slide. So the Neil Squire Society, like I said, it's been around 40 years. We're very frontline work. We work a lot with people with disabilities. We we were born out of technology, but have really grown and worked together with CASE and with tons and tons of provincial organizations. The biggest thing about the Neil Squire Society is partnerships, and we come in where you need us. Very frontline, very grassroots. We're there when you need us and what you need us for. Next slide. I believe our next slide is Neil. So Neil is a real person. Neil Squire was an athlete, a student studying. He was a basketball star. He was studying medicine. And in 1980, he slid on black ice and had a profound accident. His diagnosis was tetraplegia, which means such a high level spinal cord injury that he couldn't speak and he couldn't breathe on his own. And so they wheeled him into a nursing home and said, hey, this gets to be your life. And he had a cousin who was an engineer and said, no, I don't think so. So the cousin rigged up a little teletype machine with Morse code. So a breath was one command, a dot, an inhale was another command, a dash, so Neil could communicate. And if any of you have heard of a lip sync, a lot of people will use their wheelchairs with a little pneumatic tube. You may have seen that where people control things with breath. That was developed by the Neil Squire Society. And then they realized, wow, it's not just Neil that needs stuff, that's everybody. So they started working with people with computers with profound physical impairments, and now we've expanded to all cross disability. Next slide. So I'm not going to talk about, you guys, oh my goodness, covered so perfectly the myths, the why, the how. Why should we be hiring people with disabilities? Well, because they're people. That's it. Like, we don't really need anything else, because people are people are people are people, and every human being deserves to have whatever life they choose to have. So they're people. But thank you, brilliant on the myths and the whys. Really, really good. Thank you, guys. So I'm just going to go over a little bit of where we can fit in to help now. So we have the first I'm going to start with is yellow, collaboration, because that's the kind of stuff we're doing here. We have also worked with Eco Canada, worked with all sorts of organizations, and we're big on partnership. Call us when you need it. Something that you will find as you're navigating is different organizations primarily serve a different clientele, which is perfect because we're all there to help and serve and make sure our entire community is served with supports. So CASE and a lot of their partners will work with people, I wouldn't say primarily, but a lot of people who have developmental, intellectual. Would that be true, gentlemen? And so they're experts there. So we don't mess in their field unless they ask us in. So we work with sort of everybody else who self-declares they have a disability. And a lot of our clients, you wouldn't know they had a disability to look at them. But every one of our partners has an expertise in their area. So that's the first part. Then red, we have this amazing program. It's called Makers Making Change. And what it is, it's grassroots for people who need items to help them do what they want to do, activities of daily living, anything that they want to do. I encourage you to go to Makers Making Change website, and we print these things for people. For example, there'd be a little ball that goes on a pen, help a person write, brush their teeth, whatever they need. Print these things 3D printed for pennies. So that's something we do. Grassroots, people go onto the website. I need this. People, engineers, people, volunteers say, oh, what about this? Let's make this work together. And there's an open source. It's open to anybody, 3D printer. Go on there. If there's anything you need, print it, reach out to one of us, print it. It's just a really fantastic program. The purple is our digital literacy. We help all of our clients develop basic literacy skills. Most employment now, you seem to need some sort of basic literacy skills. So anywhere from somebody will come to us and never touched a computer before in their life, don't know how to use a cell phone, don't know how to use a tablet, up to people who say, I really need advanced Excel for my job. So, and most of these programs are free. So we have funding to cover most of these. So you just reach out, give us a call. We need some digital literacy. Our employment program, it's quite a large piece of what we do now. We do the whole from A to Z employment. So we have clients that will learn their digital literacy skills. They learn all about wellness. They learn to all the soft skills toward employment. And then they have the resume, the cover letter, interview skills, all of those things. So we do all of that work with our clients. And also, every client gets an assistive technology assessment and is provided whatever technology or accommodations they need for when they go to work. So any of you employers, geez, you know, I have this job, I'm looking for somebody who can do A, B, C, D, reach out to us, reach out to CASE. We may have the perfect person who will fit your job requirements, and they come with their accommodations already and knowing how to use them. So that's a big part of what we do, our employment. And we also are able to offer pay money if the person has to, the company has to hire. If the company hires the client, we can pay the wage for the client for the first few months for the training period. This is not for the client, not for the employee. The employee can do the job. These are posted jobs. These are not made up jobs. And the employer has to keep that employee after they have been helped through that training period. This is simply to show the employer we 100% believe in this client. It's not for every client, but it's a possibility depending on the needs of the client. If we need a job coach for that client, then we reach out to CASE and partners within them, because we don't have job coaches, but we all work together for that. So those are things we can offer. And of course, barring any, employment concerns, the employer is expected to keep that client. And once again, this is not a made up job. This is a real job, real posted job, and the person is doing the job full time, benefits, wages like everybody else. And we actually have a 72% retention in that program. So 72% of people who have had some supports during those training periods have kept that job and are in that job long term. So that's fantastic success. And then the next one is our assistive technology. And that's a big one for you employers. So as I said, we can bring a client to you, an employee to you that has all their technology in place. They're all trained, they know what they're doing, and they've got their technology and accommodations. We also have two assistive technology specialists, and what they have is a master's education in specifically assistive technology. Now that's my region, but I want to let you know that this is all across the country. Squire is a national organization, and you can get these supports anywhere in Canada. So anyway, the assistive technology supports, if you call us and say, hey, I have somebody who seems to need some kind of support, maybe they have a learning disability, maybe they have anxiety, depression, maybe they have anything like carpal tunnel, repetitive strain, anything, give us a call, and my AT specialist can go in, assess, provide training. AT is not a one size fits all. They can provide a trial, provide training, so your employee then can do anything they want to do, the same as anyone else. We often say glasses is assistive technology. If you wear glasses so you can do whatever you need to do, that's assistive technology. Same with assistive technology we provide. And also we speak to, exactly like my esteemed colleagues were speaking to, any accommodation needed, we will help you navigate that. We're right front line, right in there between the employer and the employee. How can we help you navigate this and make this work? And all it is pick up, give us a call, let us know what's going on, and we'll see if we can be the help for you. Next slide. Oh, here's some of the disabilities that we work with. Not all of them, but a lot. This is the kind of people we are specialized in: learning disabilities, depression, anxiety, chemical sensitivities, hearing loss, vision loss, spinal cord injury, chronic fatigue, cerebral palsy, fibromyalgia, any brain injuries, repetitive strain injuries, chronic pain. Lots and lots of our clients declare these. And like I said, a lot of our clients, you would look at them and you wouldn't know they had an involvement or a barrier, but they do. And we are able to minimize the impact of that barrier with whatever accommodation we can provide. Next slide. If you're interested in looking into or having somebody, and again, free, most of these are free. If you hire, our solutions department is also a social enterprise within our nonprofit, which means we are also consultants, ergonomists, assistive technology specialists, industrial ergonomists. Like, we have all the training in that, so we can provide assessment and support, and for a fee for service, and then that goes right back into our nonprofit to pay to help people who need our services, to provide those funds for people who need our services. So we've got that fee for service. Sometimes we can provide the supports for free. Sometimes it's a fee for service. That's a call. Let us know. Everything other than that, all of the other programs I spoke about are free, and the client simply has to self-declare. We don't need paperwork. You just say to us, I think I struggled learning in grade 10. I don't know math, or whatever it is you feel that is standing between you and where you want to be. Self-declare, age 15 years or older, and looking for employment. Next slide. So this is my information, but what I would like to do is read you a little story about a job seeker. So are we good to go? Do I have a few minutes, my friends? Perfect. So this is a lady.
Absolutely.
Thank you. This is a lady named Bobby. So this is a true story, and I have permission to share it with you. It's a story of a woman who struggled for many, many years. As a little girl, Bobby felt she was broken, that she was ill-formed, and that someone had made a mistake when putting her together. She was weak. That's what she believed, and that's what she had been told. She was far too sensitive. Things bothered her far too much. She needed to get stronger, to toughen up, and she felt fearful most of the time. Fear of things known and unknown. At night, when she would close her eyes, scary things would come to her, and if she was able to drift off to sleep, she often would wake terrified and gasping for breath. As Bobby grew, she tried to become stronger, to be less impacted by daily living, to be a more functional person. She was a straight A student and excelled at school. She had a few close friends and studied dance when not in school. She was the oldest of 4 children and was essentially the perfect daughter. For anyone who looked from the outside, Bobby was just a quiet, helpful, smart, normal kid. But inside, she felt like she was always standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting to fall and into what she did not know. She always felt like she needed to hold tightly to something, hold on, succeed, be the best, to do, but never stop to think. Thinking would be the end. She was never sure how she knew that, but she did. She could never be alone. Alone was too easy to think. And she needed to avoid that at all costs, because that's when the weakness and the oversensitivity would set in, and that could not be allowed to happen. Bobby became a young bride. She married at the age of 19, and she soon had a family of her own. By her 27th birthday, she had her 4th child. Looking back, she cannot recall much of her 20s. It was simply survival. After the birth of each child, she was unable to sleep for months. Each time she would close her eyes, she would see something horrible happen to her newborn. And when she did drop from pure exhaustion, she would often wake to find herself running through her house and sometimes even outside her home, gasping for air. In complete and utter terror of something unknown. She was exhausted most of the time and simply going through the motions instead of life and living it. She cared for her 4 children as was required in her mind. She needed to be perfect, chasing constantly to find something other than the fear and the emptiness she felt most of the time. At the age of 28, a friend visited her, and during the visit, the friend insisted she call mental health. She couldn't figure out why her friend would say such a ridiculous thing. Her friend pointed out she had been crying since her arrival. Bobby had been visiting, pouring tea, caring for her children, making cookies, doing all the right things, with tears pouring down her face, apparently. She couldn't understand why her friend would say such a thing, and she touched her face and she ran to the washroom. She then agreed something wasn't right, and she phoned to make an appointment that afternoon with her friend's help. Her children were her reason. They were her world, and she knew she needed to fix whatever was wrong. Bobby met with a psychiatrist and soon realized everybody's grandpa didn't have shock treatments every fall. Everyone's parents didn't need to take little orange pills. That was never discussed as out of the ordinary in her family, and she had just assumed that this was true of all families and not discussed by any of them. Shock treatments, orange pills, many other things the psychiatrist seemed to find important were the same as going to school or putting on your socks for Bobby. Everyday and normal. After talking with her, the doctor said he felt she was experiencing chronic depression and severe anxiety disorder. She wasn't just tired, stressed, and having bad dreams. She was very resistant to taking medication. She was terrified of being labeled crazy. What would people think? She was perfect. She did everything exactly right. How could she be nuts? The doctor told her she only needed to do it for 6 weeks and reminded her of her children. Sometime after she had been taking the medication, Bobby went to the grocery store with her children, who were aged 1, 3, 5, and 7 at the time. This was different, though. This time she managed to get all the groceries she needed, and even toured up and down every aisle at a leisurely pace, as leisurely as one can with 4 children. She showed the children the difference between the large eggs, and together. Oh, why is it asking me this? Can you still hear me? Everybody can hear me?
Yeah, we
We
can
can
still
hear
hear you.
you anymore.
Oh no, I think maybe she's disappeared now.
Oops.
My apologies. It looks like we may have lost Nikki right in the middle of her story. I'm bereft. That is terrible. She's just dropped off the line.
Can you hear me
My,
now?
oh, there she is. Yeah, we can hear you now, Nikki.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Did I go away, or did I just think I went away?
No, you're here. It's all good. You went away briefly, but you're back now.
It's a little different, isn't it? All right, you can hear me. I'll keep reading. She showed her children the difference between the small eggs and the large eggs, and all of them together oohed at the cow tongue, ready to be packaged and ready to be taken to someone's home. She managed to breathe deeply and evenly, and was even smiling and chatting with the clerk as she loaded all of her groceries on the conveyor. She paid, took the groceries to her car, loaded them into the trunk, was able to make sure nothing was left on the cart, loaded all her children to the car, and drove home. She was able to take the children and the groceries all into the house and unpack all of the groceries. Then she slowly slid down the wall of the kitchen and she wept. Is this how it's supposed to be? She thought. Is this how normal people live? They don't get only a few groceries at a time. They don't feel their chest constricting and feel unable to breathe as they pay for the groceries, praying the whole time they don't run out of the store before they've completed the interaction. They don't have trouble paying attention to how they load the groceries into the trunk because they're so focused on making sure the children are okay and making sure they remember to breathe. They don't have to leave the groceries in the car for a few hours to make sure they're safe and able to leave the house again after they're home. They're able to get groceries and actually enjoy it. She knew then that she needed medication, and it was the right thing for her, and it was beginning a whole new phase of her life. And the whole story, the whole being for us being here is why hire a person with a disability? Bobby is me. That's my story. So why hire me? Because I'm a great employee. And you know what? Just because somebody has something attached to them, a name, a disability, they're a person and they're a great employee. And that's why we hire people with disabilities.
Thank you all so much, Nikki. What a wonderful story and what a wonderful way to end our webinar. We do have a few questions
So
coming
thank
from the
you. I'm
audience.
turning it
Yes.
over to questions or whoever.
Yeah, we're going to turn it over to questions. So let me just pull those up right now. Our first question to the crew is, how do you know what assistive technology is required as an accommodation? Just right off the bat, just a basic. Anyone?
Sorry, what was the question again? How do you know if assistive technology is required?
How do you know what assistive technology is required as an accommodation?
Um, usually the person who you are hiring usually will know, because they've kind of used that technology usually in the past before, or they have some idea around the accommodation they need. So this would be something that they can inform you about, but not necessarily so. But for the majority of the time, they can definitely um, advise you of what's needed to accommodate them to do their job, or to do the job. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. There's a question from Ekta, and they're wondering, do you guys actually assist with employment as well? Like, will you help them to get a job? And if they are looking to get a job through you guys, do they have to declare a disability?
For us, yes. It's a part of the contract, simply because you don't have to declare it to the employer, but you have to tell us because our contract states that's who we work with. And we will help people get a job, but we teach people how to get a job. We don't have this big job bank, come in here, we'll assign you a job. You tell us what kind of work you want to do, we'll help you search for that work and we can help you, but we don't get a person a job, we help them learn.
Richard?
Yeah, can you just repeat that question really quick again?
Sorry, let me just go back here. They wanted to know if there was if you assist with employment, and actually getting them jobs, and if they need to declare a disability before doing so.
Okay. So there, I'm assuming we're talking about people with disabilities. I briefly mentioned and talked about employment service providers that exist across the country, members of CASE who work directly with people experiencing a variety of different disabilities. And their services for these individuals vary, but for the most part, they do work with those individuals at the pre-employment aspect. So they get introduced to different programs such as mentorability, and they talk about resume writing, cover letter writing, how to look for jobs, where to look for jobs. Networking is a big topic, how to connect with people without applying with everybody else. So how to make the resume stand out. And then also, once these job developers have convinced or worked with an employer to hire this individual, often those services continue on during the role of the job. And then a job coach goes in and works with both the employee who experiences a disability as well as the employer, simply to make sure that things are going well, to provide supports where needed, and sometimes to settle disputes or concerns that come up from time to time. Hopefully that answers that question.
Wonderful. Then I have another question. What is the average cost of assistive technology to accommodate someone? Is it expensive?
No, it isn't. Like my colleague said, the average cost is 200. It's around $200 to $300 is the average cost, and very, very often Neil Squire is able to pay for it. But it is absolutely not. And in fact, a lot of stuff is free now because surprisingly, a lot of us use what used to be called assistive technology. Hey Siri used to be assistive technology, but now it's not. So it's just about providing the right apps and the right free things.
Wonderful. And then there's this last question. If we wanted to hire a person with a disability, how does the subsidized training period work?
If you want to hire a person, you hire, you interview, you decide, you set up the interview, you decide if you want to hire the person. The whole financial or whatever, the documentation part is heavy on our end, light on the employer's end. You would provide us with the information. What is the job? What is the pay? How many hours a week, and all of those things, your WCB number and your business number, and then draw up a contract. And we both adhere to the contract. And when you submit proof of payment that employee has been paid, then you're reimbursed in your account.
Well, it sounds very easy. It sounds like a lot of these barriers have been taken away to hiring differently abled people or people with disabilities. So I wanted to say thank you so much to our panelists today. Is there any last words from Richard, Glenn, Maddie, or Nikki that you wanted to say before you leave our audience today?
Thank you. Thank you for all for participating and listening. We're hoping that our presentation today changes your mindset slightly and not forces you, but prompts you to go look at these different options and consider diversity and inclusion in your workplace.
I agree. Nikki, any last words?
One thing I would like to say is diversity is absolutely beautiful. Think of you're about to make a cake. You have your cake mix. I have a cake mix. You have your milk, you have your eggs and all that. That's diversity sitting on your counter. Inclusion is when you mix them all together. So let's keep that in mind, and inclusion is our goal. And thank you very much for spending this time with us.
Wonderful. Glenn, any last words?
No, I think it was great that people came out and joined us today, and that I hope you got a lot of information today and you learned a lot.
Wonderful. And from Maddie and myself here at Eco Canada, thank you everyone for joining us. Wonderful presentation. Like I said, this will be recorded and sent out to you within 24 hours. So if you have any other further questions, please send them over to me and I will distribute them to the appropriate people. Thank you all and have a wonderful day.